It was a chilly autumn morning when I first realized that everything I had built was crumbling around me. The leaves were turning, vibrant shades of orange and red, much like the warmth that had gradually faded from my life. I stood by the window, the scent of damp earth wafting in from the garden, and felt a pang of loneliness that I hadn't experienced in years. My family, once my greatest pride, had scattered like those fallen leaves in the wind. There was a time when laughter echoed through these walls, but now silence was my only companion. You see, I had always been the pillar of my family, the one who provided and cared. My children looked up to me, and I took great joy in that role. But life, as it often does, threw a curveball I never saw coming. Betrayal came from the least expected source, my eldest son, whom I had trusted implicitly. He had been struggling, I knew that, but I never imagined he would turn to deception out of desperation. The day he took everything from me, the savings I had meticulously saved for his education, the family heirlooms, even my beloved grandfather's watch, was the day I lost a part of myself. I remember the sound of his footsteps echoing down the hallway that morning, the doors slamming shut behind him like a finality I couldn't escape. My heart raced, and I could taste the salt of my tears mingling with the bitterness of betrayal. I was left standing in the debris of my life, questioning my worth. Was I a failure as a parent? Had I not given enough? The questions swirled around my mind like a tempest, and I felt utterly adrift. Days turned into weeks, and I found myself in a state of melancholic reflection. The world outside my window continued to turn. The sun rose and set, but I was stuck in a loop of despair. I began to neglect myself. The once vibrant garden became overgrown, the flowers wilting under my indifference. I would sit for hours in the old armchair, the fabric worn and faded, reminiscing about the bustling family dinners, the laughter that used to bounce off the walls, and the warmth of hugs that now felt like distant memories. It was during one of those desolate afternoons, while I was aimlessly flipping through an old photo album, that I stumbled upon a picture of my younger self, surrounded by my family, smiles all around. In that moment, something stirred within me. It was a flicker of hope, buried under layers of grief and disappointment. I realized that losing everything had stripped away the superficial layers of my life, revealing what truly mattered. My worth was not tied to my possessions, or even the approval of my children. It resided within me, the essence of who I had always been. With this realization, I made a decision I would not allow myself to be defined by betrayal or loss. I started small. I dusted off my gardening tools and stepped outside, the crisp air filling my lungs. As I dug my hands into the earth, I felt a sense of purpose returning. The rhythmic sound of my shovel breaking through the soil was oddly soothing. I planted new seeds, each one a symbol of hope, a promise of new beginnings. It wasn't long before the neighborhood began to notice my efforts. They would stop by, drawn by the blossoming flowers and the vibrant colors that now adorned my once neglected garden. I began to engage with them, sharing stories and laughter, rediscovering connections I had lost in my isolation. I found joy in the simple act of gardening, in nurturing life, and in sharing that life with others. I became part of a community again, weaving myself back into the tapestry of human connection. Months passed, and just when I thought I was finding my footing, I received an unexpected letter. It was from my son. My heart raced as I read the words, each one heavy with regret and longing. He wrote about his struggles, his realization of the pain he had caused, and how he wished to make amends. The letter was raw, filled with vulnerability, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a flicker of compassion. I remembered the little boy who used to sit on my lap, full of dreams and laughter. Perhaps, just perhaps, there was still a chance for us to rebuild. We met at a small cafe, the air thick with anticipation. When he walked in, I noticed the weight of the world etched on his face. I could have chosen anger, I could have chosen to confront him with accusations, but instead, I chose understanding. As we spoke, I felt the walls between us begin to crumble. We shared our fears, our regrets, and slowly, the space that had once been filled with betrayal turned into a garden of reconciliation. I saw in him the same lost soul I had once been, and in that moment, I realized that our worth is often intertwined. We are not alone in our struggles. We rise and fall together. As our relationship began to heal, I embraced the lessons learned through my journey. I had lost material things, but in return, I had gained a deeper understanding of what it meant to love and be loved. I learned that true worth is not found in possessions or accolades, but in the connections we nurture and the kindness we extend to one another. Now, as I sit in my garden, surrounded by the blooms that flourish under my care, I reflect on my journey with a sense of serenity. I have found peace in the chaos, purpose in the loss, and a renewed appreciation for the simple joys of life. I invite you to reflect on your own journey. What have you rediscovered about your worth? What stories do you carry with you? I would love to hear your thoughts. What's been on your mind lately? Share your ideas for the next video. As I sat there, the vibrant colors of my garden dancing in the gentle breeze, I couldn't help but think about the transformative power of vulnerability. It struck me that when we open ourselves up to others, we create space for healing, not just for ourselves, but for those around us. It was like when I took the first steps into my garden after months of neglect. Each bloom was a reminder that life, much like our connections, can flourish again if we nurture it with care and understanding. I began to reflect on the moments I had shared with my son in that cafe, how laughter began to weave its way back into our conversations. It was a slow process, but every shared story and every chuckle felt like a stitch in the fabric of our relationship, mending the tears that had once seemed irreparable. It made me realize that recovery isn't just about getting back what we've lost. It's also about building something new and beautiful from the remnants. And speaking of building, my garden became a metaphor for my life. Each plant represented a different aspect of my journey. Some were resilient, thriving despite adversity, while others needed a little extra love and attention to bloom. I started to invite friends and neighbors over for garden gatherings, where we'd share our own stories of struggle and triumph over cups of tea and laughter. It was in those moments that I truly felt the essence of community. As I listened to their experiences, I found pieces of myself in their stories. It was like a beautiful tapestry, where each thread added depth and color to the overall picture. One afternoon, while tending to my roses, I met a lovely elderly woman named Margaret. She shared how she had lost her husband a few years back and how gardening had helped her cope with the loneliness that followed. We bonded over our shared experiences of loss and rediscovery, and I realized that the garden wasn't just a sanctuary for me. It was becoming a refuge for others too. The simple act of nurturing plants turned into an avenue for nurturing relationships, and I began to see the true worth of connection. As the seasons changed, so did I. I found myself embracing the unpredictability of life. Some days were filled with sunshine, while others brought unexpected storms. I started to view challenges as opportunities for growth rather than setbacks. It was liberating. Really, I discovered that resilience is not about never falling, but about rising every time we do, stronger and more determined. I began to share these insights on my social media, posting snippets of my gardening adventures and the lessons I was learning along the way. The reactions were overwhelming. People resonated with my story, and I found myself surrounded by a virtual community of support. One day, as I posted about a particularly challenging moment in my garden, a plant that just wouldn't thrive, I received a comment that stopped me in my tracks. A viewer shared how they had faced a similar struggle in their life, and it inspired them to keep pushing forward. It was a powerful reminder that our stories have the ability to touch others in ways we might not even realize. I found joy in being a source of inspiration, and it reinforced my belief that worth isn't just about self-discovery, it's also about how we uplift and empower those around us. And just when I thought I had reached a stable ground, I decided to channel my newfound perspective into something bigger. I organized a community gardening day, inviting everyone to join in, bringing their own stories and experiences. People from all walks of life showed up, armed with tools and a willingness to share. That day, as we dug, planted, and laughed together, I felt an overwhelming sense of belonging. It was a vivid reminder that when we come together, we create something far more significant than the sum of its parts, much like a garden full of diverse plants thriving side by side. In the midst of the planting, I noticed my son was there, helping out with the younger kids. It was a sight that brought warmth to my heart. Watching him laugh and play, I felt the weight of our past begin to lift. It dawned on me that this healing process was not a straight line. It was a winding path filled with unexpected twists and turns. Each moment of joy shared with him was a step towards rebuilding the trust that had once been broken. As I reflect on this journey, I find myself pondering the deeper questions of life. What does it mean to truly value ourselves? Is it rooted in our achievements, our possessions, or is it found in the love we give and receive? I've come to see that true worth lies in our ability to connect, to empathize, and to rise together in the face of adversity. So, as I sit in my garden, surrounded by the life I've cultivated, both in the soil and in my relationships, I invite you to join this conversation. What have you discovered about your own worth through your experiences? What stories are waiting to be shared? I would love to hear your thoughts. Let's keep the dialogue going. Your insights could inspire someone else on their journey. And if you're curious about how to navigate your own path to rediscovering your true worth, don't forget to like and comment below, subscribe for more stories like this. Together, we can thrive. As I sat there, surrounded by the vibrant blooms and the laughter of friends, a thought struck me. How often do we overlook the beauty in the chaos? Life can sometimes feel like a tangled mess of weeds, but there's something truly magical about the act of untangling it. It reminded me of those moments when I'd pull stubborn weeds from my garden, each one representing a fear or doubt that had taken root in my mind. The more I pulled, the clearer my path became, and I started to see the potential for growth all around me. One evening, while hosting a small gathering, I decided to share a personal story about the struggles I faced after losing everything I opened up about the fears and insecurities that haunted me. And as I spoke, I could feel the energy in the room shift. People leaned in, nodding and understanding, and I realized that vulnerability is a bridge that connects us all. It was a reminder that while we often wear masks in our daily lives, the raw honesty of our experiences can spark genuine connections. The next day, inspired by the conversations from the night before, I took a walk through the local park. I was struck by how the trees swayed in the wind, standing tall despite the storms they had weathered. This made me think about resilience in a new light. It's not just about survival, it's about standing firm and embracing the storms as part of our growth. I began to see that every challenge I faced was like a storm that could either uproot me or strengthen my roots. As I continued to document my gardening adventures and personal reflections online, I noticed that people were engaging with my posts in unexpected ways. They were sharing their own stories of loss and recovery, and it became evident that we were part of a larger tapestry of human experience. It was beautiful to witness how our collective vulnerability fostered a sense of belonging. It made me wonder, how many others out there are waiting for an invitation to share their truths? One afternoon, while planting new seeds, I decided to start a small video series called Garden Chats, where I would share not just my gardening tips, but also the life lessons I was learning along the way. My first episode was about embracing failure, using my wilting plants as a metaphor for the times I'd stumbled in life. To my surprise, the response was overwhelmingly positive. Viewers commented about their own failures and how they were learning to embrace them. It felt like we were cultivating a garden of resilience together, and I was thrilled to be a part of this shared journey. In the midst of all this, I began to realize that my garden was evolving into more than just a personal retreat. It was becoming a hub for community connection. I started to plan gardening workshops where people could come together to learn, share, and grow. The excitement was palpable as I organized the first event, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of purpose blooming within me. When the day finally arrived, I was amazed by the turnout. Neighbors, friends, and even some new faces filled the space, all eager to dig in the dirt and share their stories. We spent hours planting seeds and sharing laughter, each interaction forging deeper connections. I watched as barriers began to crumble, revealing the shared humanity beneath. It was a beautiful reminder that we are all in this together, navigating the complexities of life side by side. Amidst the laughter, I spotted my son helping an elderly gentleman with his plants. It was a scene that filled my heart with joy, seeing him embrace kindness and community. It struck me how healing could spread like wildflowers, gently weaving through the lives of those around us. Each act of service, no matter how small, had the potential to create ripples of change. As the sun set on that magical day, I found myself reflecting on how far I had come. I had transformed my pain into purpose, and in doing so, I had not only rediscovered my true worth, but had also helped others find theirs. It made me ponder, how often do we underestimate the power of community? How many of us are longing for a space to share our stories, to feel seen and heard? That evening, as I prepared to share my experience on my channel, I felt a wave of gratitude wash over me. I thought about all the incredible people I had met along the way, each one inspiring me to dig deeper and reach higher. I couldn't wait to invite my viewers to reflect on their own journeys. I wanted to encourage them to think about their worth, not just in terms of achievements or possessions, but in the connections they foster and the lives they touch. I wrapped up my video with a heartfelt invitation. What's been on your mind lately? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Whether it's a struggle you're facing or a triumph you're celebrating, every story is valuable. Your insights could inspire someone else on their journey. And if you're curious about finding your true worth, don't forget to like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more inspiring stories. Together, we can continue to cultivate a vibrant community where everyone's experiences matter. As I clicked upload on my latest video, I felt a familiar flutter of nerves mixed with excitement. The comments section had become a treasure trove of shared experiences. People were opening up about their own losses and how they were finding strength in vulnerability. I realized then that by sharing my journey, I was not only healing myself, but creating a space for others to feel safe in their own stories. It struck me how our collective healing could be like a patchwork quilt, each piece vibrant and unique, yet woven together to create something beautiful. The next morning, I received a message from a viewer named Sarah. She shared how she had recently lost her job and was feeling adrift. Her words resonated deeply with me. I could remember that feeling of uncertainty all too well. I decided to respond with a video, specifically addressing those moments of feeling lost. I wanted to remind everyone that losing something doesn't mean losing yourself. It's an opportunity to explore new paths, like the winding trails I often wandered in the park. Drawing inspiration from my own experiences, I began crafting this new video around the idea of embracing the unknown. I reflected on how my garden had taught me to trust the process of growth, often slow and unpredictable. Just like those little seeds I planted, we sometimes need to be buried in darkness before we can break through the surface and bloom. I thought about how many people might be stuck in their own darkness, waiting for a glimmer of light. As I recorded, I shared stories of friends who had faced uncertainty and emerged stronger. I told them about a buddy of mine, Mark, who had taken a leap of faith to start his own business after being made redundant. That leap wasn't easy, but it led him to discover talents he never knew he had. Each story was a reminder that while the unknown can be intimidating, it also holds the potential for incredible growth. After finishing the video, I felt invigorated. I posted it and waited for the reactions to roll in, and they did. Viewers began to share their own stories of embracing change, and I was thrilled to see so many people stepping out of their comfort zones. One comment caught my eye. A woman named Lisa wrote about how she had just started painting again after a long hiatus, inspired by the idea of nurturing her passions. It was like a ripple effect, and I could practically feel the energy vibrating through the screen. Encouraged by this wave of creativity, I decided to host a Creative Expression Day. In my garden, I envisioned a gathering where people could come together, free to explore their artistic sides, whether it was painting, writing, or even planting. I wanted to create an atmosphere that encouraged people to let go of their inhibitions, just as I had learned to do through gardening. On the day of the event, the garden buzzed with excitement. I watched as attendees picked up paintbrushes, sketched their thoughts, and shared poetry under the shade of the trees. Laughter filled the air, and I couldn't help but think about how each person was there to rediscover their true selves. It was a powerful reminder of how creativity can be a healing. As I moved from group to group, I was struck by the connections forming, the shared smiles, the unexpected friendships blooming like the flowers around us. In one corner, I spotted a group discussing their favorite books. It was beautiful to see how literature had woven its way into their lives, influencing their journeys and choices. I joined in, sharing my own favorite reads that had given me comfort during tough times. The conversation flowed effortlessly, and as the sun dipped lower in the sky, the warmth of connection enveloped us all. That evening, as I began to edit the footage from the day, I felt a sense of fulfillment wash over me. The stories shared, the laughter, and the creativity, it all came together like a symphony of human experience. I knew I had to share this with my viewers. I wanted them to see how powerful it can be to step outside of our comfort zones and embrace our passions, regardless of where we are in life. As I wrapped up the video, I turned the camera towards my garden, the sun setting in the background. "What passions have you neglected?" I asked, encouraging my viewers to reflect on their own lives. What would it look like if you allowed yourself the freedom to create, to explore? I invited them to share their thoughts in the comments, not just about their artistic pursuits, but about any lost parts of themselves they were ready to rediscover. I ended with an enthusiastic nudge for them to join our growing community. Let's keep this conversation going. Your stories are powerful, and I can't wait to hear what you have to share. It felt good to know that we were all part of a vibrant tapestry, each of us contributing our unique colors to the fabric of life. And as I hit publish, I realized that this was not just a video. It was a celebration of resilience, creativity, and the undeniable strength we find when we gather together. As I reflected on this journey of rediscovery, it became clear that losing everything doesn't mean losing ourselves. Instead, it opens doors to new paths and opportunities we never thought possible. From sharing my own struggles to witnessing the incredible stories of others, it's evident that vulnerability can lead to strength and connection. Our Creative Expression Day proved to be a beautiful testament to this, as we came together to explore our passions under the sun, each brushstroke and word a celebration of resilience. Remember, just like those little seeds buried in darkness, we all have the potential to break through and bloom, no matter how daunting the unknown may seem. So, I invite you to take a moment and reflect. What passions have you neglected? What hidden parts of yourself are waiting to be rediscovered? I'd love to hear your thoughts. What's been on your mind lately? Share your ideas for the next video. If you're curious about finding your true worth, comment your thoughts and subscribe for more inspiring stories. Let's keep this conversation vibrant and ongoing, because together we can create a tapestry of experiences that uplifts us all. The journey doesn't stop here. What adventure